Hey everybody, Jane here, and we are doing my July wrap-up today. Now, it is late and there's not a lot of books on it. I had surgery in the middle of July, and so I've been recovering and just haven't been reading as much as I normally do. Plan to get back to a more regular reading month in August, but did want to discuss the books that I read in July, even if we have to do it a little late.
Pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soft spoken.
This month, I read 7 books. Of those, I own 2 of them. So for people who've been following my goals for the year, my goal was to read 50% shelf and 50% unowned. And I did not make that goal this month, but 2 out of 7 ain't bad. For the kind of month it's been, 2 out of 7 hasn't been bad. I will tell you this goal has not gone as well as I'd hoped this year, partly because I'm reading a lot of audiobooks and partly because I'm reading a lot of short mangas from the library. So it's been kind of, I think I'll definitely be looking at revamping that goal for next year. Though I also need to get books off my shelf, like everybody else. Additionally, I have a goal of reading 10% from indie authors. And this month, I don't think any of my books were from indie authors. Again, I really didn't read very many, and it was all what I would consider light reading, all things I was drawn to. I just was trying to deal with prepping for surgery and dealing with recovery from surgery, which I am still in the process of. I did not have any DNFs this month, which is great. I did not have any 1 stars. I did not have any 2 stars. But I also didn't have any 5 stars. So it's been a little bit of a meh reading month, especially for reading just books that I wanted to read, was feeling. I really thought we'd have slightly higher stats this month. So I'm going to start with my 3 stars. The first of those is Izombie. This was a graphic novel. I picked it up because I'd been watching the show, and I really enjoy the show. I'm only at the beginning of the 2nd season, and I've been told it goes kind of off the rails, so I don't know how I'll feel about the show once I'm done with it, but so far I'm really enjoying it. And I picked up the comic hoping for a lot more of the same. This is volume 1, I do believe. And I will tell you, it's a lot different than the show, which I think is maybe part of the reason I'm just not quite jiving with it. So in the show, I like the main character a lot more. In this, I didn't. Also, like in Izombie, everything is going on because of a chemical pharmaceutical issue, whereas in this, there's a lot of paranormal creatures that just exist. We already have ghosts and vampires and a Ware terrier. The Ware terrier at first threw me because I was like, what is this insanity? But then I ended up thinking that he was the best part of the book. Let me see if I can find him in here because he's actually kind of cute. But yeah, this just ended up not meeting my expectations. There is a picture of our Ware terrier. So yeah, it was a little too over the top, a little too out there, and I just ended up feeling very meh about it. Our next 3-star read will probably go on my biggest disappointments of the year list. And that is Resting Witch Face, which is book 5 in the Stay a Spell series, and my least favorite. I was so looking forward to this book. Of all the books in the series, I was so excited for it, and it just did not hit. So this is Jules and Ruben's book. They have been major side characters throughout the series, and I was so excited to get to their book. It just turns out I didn't love them as POV characters. So both of them have a lot of issues with possessiveness and jealousy. And so as characters, there was a lot of a turnoff for me. The spicy scenes I didn't care for. They were a little bit aggressive for my taste, which has been kind of something I've said throughout this series. Additionally, this book, of all of the ones so far, I'd say has the least plot. So you have Jules and Ruben, and the vast majority of the book, they are going around trying to get werewolves recognized so that they can become part of the governing body. So they have like a supernatural congress almost, and it starts out being called the Witches' Council. But it includes vampires and grims, and Jules and Ruben want the werewolves included. They haven't been included up to this point because they are considered too dangerous. And Jules and Ruben are kind of rallying the different governing bodies of supernaturals together to try to get the werewolves included. Now, that was kind of a dull plot for the majority of the book. At the end, things go kind of off the rails. Somebody is trying to stop them from including werewolves, and it gets crazy. I did have an issue too at the climax of this book that I think became a huge problem in this book and the other Stay a Spell book that's going to be on this video, because I did finish the series out this month. And that is just that because of the way the magic system works, there isn't a lot of tension. Everything is just solved by magic. So we have a really intense climactic scene that should be just tearing at our heartstrings, giving us all kinds of feels. And because of the way it plays out, it's kind of anticlimactic, because it's not like, oh, how are the characters going to get out of this? It's like magic. And I really ended up not loving it. I know these are paranormal romances, so like a little bit of magic makes sense, but I just felt like by the end of the series, the author was almost taking it too far for my personal taste. So yes, I really did not enjoy this book, and I gave it 3 stars, and it is the only Stay a Spell book that I've given 3 stars to. The next book on my 3 stars is Next of Kin. I picked this up because 2 months ago, I gave my first read from this author, which was Out on a Limb, 5 stars. And this did not live up to my expectations from Out on a Limb. So with Out on a Limb, we have this character who, she was taken into foster care because her mom couldn't take care of her, adopted into a family that is not great, and she is a young adult now, and her mother has had another child who she is not capable of parenting. So the foster care system has reached out to this older sister to go, hey, do you want to take in and foster your baby sister? And of course, she agrees. She wants to make sure that her baby sister has a better life than she had. And she goes to do her, I don't remember what they call it in the book, but it's basically a home study. So to get approved to foster. And unfortunately, her income, since she's a freelancer, isn't appropriate for a foster parent. So the organization that she's trying to foster through has a program called Team Ups. And basically, she would team up with another person who is fostering, and they would both foster kind of together so that the things that she lacked and the things that the other parent lacked wouldn't be an issue. So the other parent that they have lacks housing. And our main character, and I cannot remember her name, I'm so sorry, she has like an apartment with multiple rooms, and the other character is a guy who is fostering his little brother. And he has money, he makes good money, he's a mechanic, but does not have like a space with different rooms. And his being able to get a room is a real problem because his brother has to go through a special school. His brother is deaf, and there's not housing he can afford with enough bedrooms in the area of the school. Her apartment falls within the area of the school, so they are put in the team up program. I hated the guy from the get-go, and it is a single POV, so we only get the girl's perspective on what's happening, which the guy was pretty awful, so I felt like I don't know if his POV would have redeemed him or not, but especially the fact that we're only getting her POV. I think they were like trying to do a friends to lovers or enemies to lovers, but it didn't really work for me, especially because they didn't have much of a history. And right off the bat, he shows up and he's just awful. I also had issues with kind of the third act breakup. I felt like they should not have gotten back together, and especially like I didn't feel like they were really going to have a happily ever after. I don't want to go into spoilers. I did in my I have a video coming up soon that is going to be a reading vlog that this book was added into, and I do go into spoilers there, so I'm not going to spoil it here, but I just really had issues with the relationship all the way through and him being awful. And what happened at the end, he did a thing and she should have just been like, no, we can't be together. But that's not what happened, and it should have. And I have no belief that these characters are going to live happily ever after. And I'm kind of concerned for her and her baby, to be honest. So yeah, this book was a major downer. I'm not sure if I'm going to read more by this author. The last book that I loved, I really loved the characters, and I think I need those characters to be awesome for these books to work. Also, both of the books I've read by this author so far have been single POV, and I really prefer both POVs. It's really hard, I think, to be sympathetic to the guy when we're not getting his POV. So yeah, this one ended up being a major miss for me. The last 3-star we have is Murder Buys a One-Way Ticket. Now, this is the last book in the Jane Austen mystery series. And it was more or less just what we would expect from it. Zany, over the top, a lot of Janie being Janie. Janie is a freelance writer. And in this book, she is contracted to help this guy write a fitness book. This guy owns a series of gyms. They're trying to write a fitness book. And Janie is not a fit person. We are never explicitly told that she's plus size, but we're kind of given the impression that she might be. She lives in California, Los Angeles, and so like everybody acts like she's plus size, even though in some ways it seems like she's just like 5 extra pounds type person. It's hard to say, and I will point out, and I didn't realize this until I'd recommended it to a friend who pointed it out to me, this does have some potentially toxic, unhealthy, weight-related things. It's played for laughs. I enjoy it. I find Janie extremely relatable, especially when she's, being like, I should have a salad, but I'm going to have a chocolate cake instead. Like, I get that, and I feel it in my bones. So I do relate to Janie, but it may not be healthy for people who have any kind of food issues to enjoy this series. That being said, with this particular mystery, it was about what I expect from these books. The mystery itself wasn't one of the better ones. I didn't feel like we were given enough clues to really buy the whodunit, and it just kind of was fine. I also thought the overall wrap-up was very quick. I am glad I knew going in that this was the last book in the series, because otherwise the ending would have really thrown me off. But the author has decided to retire. She's in her 80s, and so I think that's a good call. But yeah, so I'm not sad I read it. This is the last book in the series. I've now read the entire series. It's been a fun time. This wasn't one of the best books in the series, but I still had an overall good time with it. All right, now we are moving on to my 4-star reads. My first 4-star was A Perfect Couple. This is the second Ruth Ware I've ever read, and overall I enjoyed it much more than the first Ruth Ware I read. So in this particular book, we have this couple who's been asked to go on a reality show to select the perfect couple. And the girl is a scientist. She didn't really want to do this, but her boyfriend is like an aspiring actor, and he really pressures her into doing this. And she loves him, so she decides, "Hey, I can do the paperwork for the science that I was going to do. I'll take 2 weeks off. We'll fail the first couple thing, maybe sabotage ourselves a little bit, and it'll be fine." Instead, what happens is shortly after they get to this island where their video is going to be recording, or their uh, reality show is going to be recording on, there is a terrible storm that does a lot of damage and cuts them off from the rest of the world. And things get pretty intense, and you have resource hoarding, and this becomes very much a survival story more than like the mystery thriller I was expecting. There's really minimal mystery. There's a couple of reveals at the end that, I mean, I guess they were meant to be twists. I didn't think they mattered particularly to the story. It was more like character motivations for things that get unveiled. But I didn't think it was any huge reveals that mattered that much. I did, however, enjoy the story, enjoy the characters. Our main character, I think her name is Lila. She I liked, but I felt like at times she made decisions or felt certain ways that I couldn't relate to, because in a survival situation, I would probably be very ruthless. And she really had moments where she wasn't nearly as ruthless as I thought she should be. I was like, girl, I get that morally this is something that you don't think you should do, but in this situation, you just gotta do stuff. So I felt like um, the main character was just okay. I liked this as a survival story. It wasn't really a mystery or a thriller so much. It was overall just a good time. I enjoyed it more than the last Ruth Ware I read. The next 4-star I have is Grin and Barrett, which I think is a strange name because there's no bears in this book and it's a paranormal romance, and typically you're going to put like a werebear if it's called Grin and Barrett. But, or Grim and Barrett. Um, anyway, this is the last book in the Stay a Spell series. I did like it. Probably it's my second favorite from the series. In this book, we have Clara and Henry. They've been kind of hinted at for a while in these books. I was excited to get to their romance. I liked it but didn't love it. So Clara is a little bit annoying at times. She is this ray of sunshine, and I like that about her, but at times it was too much. Henry is a Grimm who has kind of a complex past, and the story starts with her inviting Henry to a book club that she's part of. And like, listen, a guy who reads romance books, and Henry does, like, immediately I was like, oh, be still my heart. I really liked Henry overall as a character. I did think sometimes that he made decisions that were kind of ridiculous. There is a thing early on where he has not been using his supernatural grim powers for reasons. And there is a situation that did not really require his supernatural grim powers, but like he uses his powers to please Clara, and it I think is meant to be really sweet, and maybe I'm just really cynical, but I was like, that is such a waste of your powers and your like trauma to do this thing for her that really wasn't necessary. It also took a while for the main plot to like take off. The other issue that I had, and this is kind of for me what kept it from being a 5-star, because the character wise, it probably could have been closer to a 5-star. But as we get to the end, it's kind of like I mentioned in the last day of Spellbook, craziness happens. Things go off the wall. And then magic. And like we know that magic is going to fix it. And so it should have been like a gut-wrenching, hard, difficult, oh my gosh. And I just didn't get any emotion from it because I'm like, we're just going to go fix this. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we did in the last book. This is just going to go fix it. I have no doubt everything's going to be fine. And like, granted, in a romance, we know that they're going to be fine and solve the problems. But in this case, it just felt like, oh yeah, hand-wavy magic, of course we're going to solve it. So I felt very frustrated kind of by some of the stuff that happened at the end because, again, it just felt like hand-wavy magic was solving all the problems we were having. I did like that we get a little bit of a flash of, in the epilogue, like the future and where everybody's at. I felt like there was a lot more I would have liked to explore that I don't think will be explored like in her next series. So the author is doing a series with the children, the next generation, the Stay a Spell parents' kids. And I'm excited to read it, but I'm worried that they're going to focus on characters I am less interested in. And I'm also worried that some of the stories that I feel like really need to be told aren't going to be told. In particular, one of the kids in the epilogue has a really interesting situation story. And like, I almost wanted the author to just do a short story about that situation because it was so interesting. And instead, like in the epilogue, it's just glossed over. Oh, by the way, this and this happened. And it's like, what? No, I mean, like, yes, but no. So yeah, so it was fine. It was a good conclusion to the series. I wouldn't steer people away from the series. I enjoyed the series, but I don't think it's a new favorite. Like, I'm definitely not as obsessed with Stay a Spell as I am with Ice Planet Barbarians. I like it. I don't necessarily feel the need to own all the books. I own most of them. The paperback ones I may not keep. I haven't decided yet. But it was just an okay series for me, but I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't steer anybody away from it. If you like paranormal romance, you will probably enjoy it. I'm extremely picky about paranormal romance, but book 1 knocked me off my feet, so I was hoping that we were going to get like 5 stars all the way. And I only got 5-star out of the series, I'm pretty sure. All right. The last book that I gave 4 stars to was Volume 4 of My Gently Raised Beast. I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's Volume 4. Basically, there's a girl. She is the daughter of I think he's the emperor. The emperor had a child out of wedlock, and she is a princess. And she is brought to the castle like after her mom has died. She's been raised in poverty. And she has 2 half-siblings who are pretty awful. And she is not fitting in very well in the first book. Then she meets a magical beast who I still haven't fully understood like how the beasts live in the bigger world. But he's a shifter basically. So he's the little jaguar thing. They have a truce with the humans and they somehow keep the human world safe, but also they're at odds with each other. And anyway, that is his person. Like in the beginning, I think it was meant as a friendship, but like pretty quickly he decided he was in love with her. And we see more of their development in this book. We also like have a villain pop up finally. I'm enjoying the series. I don't think I've given any of the books in the series 5 stars so far, but I think they've been mostly solid 4s, except the second book. I don't think I like the second book. But so far I'm enjoying it and do plan to continue reading the rest of the series. So yeah, that was my reads for the month of July. Have you read these books? And if so, what did you think? Please leave a comment below. If you don't have anything that you can think of to comment, but would still like to leave a comment for the algorithm, please leave either a cat or a book to the cat to signify the gently raised beast. And if you have any recommendations for paranormal romance that are similar to the original Wolf Gone Wild, like I loved that. If you have books similar to that you can recommend, please leave those in the comments. Also, if you read other books by the Out on a Limb author, I'll put her name up here, the book cover. Are there any that are similar to the Out on a Limb? I know she has other books, but based on like the tropes in them and everything, I don't know that I'm going to love them. I feel like we're going to have another next of kin moment, and I don't necessarily want to read them if they're just going to be like a 3-star for me. So let me know if she has any other ones that I should really prioritize in her backlist. All right, guys, it's been Jane. I'll talk to you next time. Bye!